Hey everyone, it's Zach with Palantir Research. Palantir has been on a hot streak, posting video after video on their YouTube channel, from client presentations to AIPCon speakers to S4G or to even CARP speaking at the Nashville Healthcare Council. Now, as an investor, I think this is a good trend overall, especially with the demos, and I'll go over 3 reasons why this is actually a huge deal. Now, this video isn't to go over them individually, but let me know in the comments if you are interested in any of them specifically to be covered in more detail on my thoughts. And I default to saying you should just watch them yourselves to get the full context and details, but if you do want that extra color from my personality, I'll be happy to share. But I already spoke briefly on Lockheed Martin's S4G presentation using Apollo, the NNSA, or National Nuclear Security Administration, on organizational transformation, and Komatsu's use of Foundry and AIP. So check those out if you're interested. But this video today is talking about this recent trend of Palantir really ramping up their demos, especially on their YouTube channel, and the overall effects it can have. Now, first and most importantly, why I like the video marketing by Palantir is because they just aren't repeating themselves here. So we get a variety of industries and use cases with a mix of government and commercial clients. So sometimes we barely even see the software itself. Like in the case of the newest from Focus Brands, it was more about getting buy-in at an organization and how Palantir is, at the end of the day, the product to make your organization customer focused. Whoever is the end user and building their inefficiencies up and then trying to fix that is great and all. But within any organization, when you're getting buy-in from management, they want to know how it'll push you to meet those metrics of ultimately making the customer happy and helping the business grow. And the more variety in the mix of use cases, the better chance you have someone watching that can align and feel a similar issue in their own business and potentially become a client. So sometimes the hardest step in making a decision to say yes is because you just can't see yourself using it. People using ice boxes, for example, before might have been fine not needing a fridge because they've never seen it, but then they see someone never needing to get that ice delivery or pick up there, refilling it here, emptying out the melted water, and they just get freed up from their time there. So they didn't know about it until they saw someone else have it. And even if it might seem like there's a hodgepodge of different subjects or industries covered, the common theme is still around Palantir, which I think is important to note. They are the toolbox and foundation that you, as a client of Palantir who has the actual SMEs or subject matter experts on your business, to actually create and extract the most value of Palantir. You might need a little bit of handholding, of course, at first or the boot camp, but that's with any other tool there also. But once you take the training wheels off, you can do the same. Now, the second major reason I think this is good is because you actually have customers who are willing to talk about how they're using Palantir. That speaks a lot. You can say all the things about yourself, but when you have someone do it for you on your behalf, that speaks louder. And these tend to be higher up in organizations as well. So they're putting their skin in the game by standing behind Palantir's products and talking about them. And these are big names from government organizations to someone like maybe Cisco on the private side, Lockheed Martin, Cleveland Clinic, of course, a major hospital system. So you get the picture of these people. Now, this will have a compounding effect over time because they don't need to speak at an AIPCon or software for government per se. We've been seeing more and more of these cleaned up, refined video presentations from like Komatsu as an example that are obviously scripted, of course, and you don't have to go through the whole thing of going to a summit to do your presentation in front of a crowd there. And the more opportunities that Palantir provides like this, the more that others can also have this available to them to share their work. There may be an incentive for these client speakers themselves where they really show that they stand with Palantir because they're the ones who brought it into their organization, of course. They have to stand behind it. But everyone wins in the end because new potential customers can build a real network of those in the same industry handling the same problems or at least related ones. And like I said, these tend to be higher management individuals, so building those networks up with real power at other organizations isn't a bad thing. And this also segues perfectly to the third reason this is important. We've got use case after use case after use case, and all of this is running through Palantir and the network of clients. So this actually improves the product itself because, they build up these kind of standardized things here. What are we seeing across the industry that everyone has to deal with? And we might as well just make it part of the product. But also, forward deployed engineers' jobs get easier when this happens and everyone gets more familiarity with Palantir and the way that people speak. We've got customers who've seen how others have used it. This means that they're starting to get the language themselves that Palantir and the deployed engineers speak to each other and the potentials of Palantir's products, so the capabilities there, before they even pick up the phone to call them. So this shared language and understanding can streamline the deployment process because the education process has already started for these clients before they even talk to someone from Palantir directly. So we've got customers presenting on many products like Foundry, Apollo, and AIP, where they explain the things that it can do in their own ways and apply it to their industry. But we know they've been working with Palantir as well. So those little bits and pieces that we know that they've been working with FDEs are talking about the same thing with these clients here. And this means that their marketing is working and should smooth out the process over time because, everyone's familiar with Microsoft per se and like using Excel. Now, we all have a shared understanding of that. Like we know what cells are and columns and rows are, but maybe back in like the 80s, this was not something that people knew about. So people weren't necessarily in the same language. So getting the education process was taking much longer. But yeah, now we're in 2023 and Palantir is the name of the game here. Now, remember, all this is anecdotal from me, but it's not a stretch of the imagination that these 3 reasons are a big reason that can help Palantir in the future. And being someone myself working with vendors or being the vendor, I work in healthcare data, it makes a world of difference when the customer knows that we are talking about the same thing.